welcome to Tuesday Advanced Business Workshop. Every Tuesday, we taking the time, from our schedule, share with you, best idea, best practice, strategy that apply into, your business, to grow your income in today's market, right? So, if I were to look at the, kind of give you guys a couple updated, I has been, working with our, you know, professional broker, overseas and helping the investor to invest in our local market. But it's let's start it now with migration, right? Let's start now with migration, and it is one of the it is one of the most challenging time in the immigration right now with the current policy that we have, right? So if you were to look at it, I set up the U.S. immigration approved regional center with the federal government a long time ago. I've been doing this since 2000, 2007, right? So it's been like more than a decade that we've been doing this and helping a lot of foreign investors to come into the U.S. But let's get an update about the where all the client coming from, right? So if you look at the draft that I have here, on the screen, right? So we look at China is still represented about 15% of the total, I-526 EB-5 investor that invest into the U.S. During the trade war with the current government right now, 3.5 years. So it went from 82% of the total application going down to 15%, right? So on the other hand, Vietnam is coming to the become the one of the very active foreign investor that invest for the immigration to get the green card, which is representing around 10% of the total application that come into the U.S. Although and I know China and Vietnam, sharing the border and very close. A lot of a lot of people, from both countries. It's very close border, and people are back and forth doing business and commerce. So the always challenging in that part of the world, right? So look at South Korea. South Korea, is still, when the program started now, still South Korea, Japan, and UK, the original investor group that invest into the EB-5 investor market back when the program started and approved by the U.S. Congress back in 1993. So the other one, you can see, the investor would come in from South Africa, right? 2%. And then Hong Kong, Macau, we both have about 1% of the total investor that make up the 100% of all the I-526 EB-5 investor market, right? So the top three EB-5 investors that come into the U.S. market, right? That's representing for the 56%, of the total, I-526 filing, right? So it's very significant. Migration it make up the migration is a major in our community, in our marketplace. So that would be a little bit about the foreign migrate to the U.S., right? So I understand that right now it's very challenging, but with the federal government intent to terminate the visa, it's that in the discussion right now, but it's created a lot of worry and concern for a lot of immigrants, international students right now. It's very significant. But the major market is for the student coming to the U.S. study still China and South Korea, Japan, Canada, right? So Vietnam is included. So very significant about I look at the migration, the immigrant the immigrant is play a major factor contributing to the local real estate market. If you look at Northwest Multiple Listing Survey in Seattle, Western Washington area, yeah, there used to be a 32% of the immigrant purchase in the luxury home, right? For consistently year after year, in the last decade. Oh, anyway, and we so very major, and then in the zip codes of the 98118, where our office located right now, we have 44% of the total population here is immigrant, right? So it's very significant amount of of the market, very significant number. So that's a little bit about EB5 and foreign investor might in terms of client that moving into our area, right? Of course, with the state of Washington with no state income tax, that's still very attractive for investor to invest here. With all the with all the corporate that creating massive amount of employment, right? And Microsoft, Amazon, and Boeing. So our regional center is located here in Western Washington, and it's ready to help the client, to migrate to the U.S. by investing into the real estate project that creating job for the community. I also look at the sorry. Yeah, so I also look at the housing market, right? If you look at the housing right now, where the foot calendar and the width of moving average. If you look at the draft right here, looking at the calendar of January's on the average, and so the average home showing a also significantly reduced, right? Due to due to the restriction, social distancing, and which make a lot of brokers that are not going to be able to going out there and show home like prior to the COVID. So but then but look at the new listing on the market, right? If you look at it, we have a new real estate is about supply and demand, right? And whenever we have more demand and less supply, the price is always go up, right? And then whenever we have less demand and more supply, the price is changing. It's just like the scale, right? So if we look at the new listing inventory on the market, we have less listing inventory. It's also down by down by around 4%. We look at we look at another factor in the marketplace. It's also like the what would be the total active listing right now in the market, right? So if you look at how are we comparing to last year, right? So at the same time, so we looking at about 31%, less product sale, less listing for sale in the marketplace, right? So that if that's the case, then that's going to drive up the price to about 6.2% of the price increase in residential, right? So if you look at all the all other sector like the retail sector in real estate, commercial, with with the challenge that we have in the marketplace right now, with the lockdown, with the restriction to open for the retail commercial real estate is very challenging, and so are the office sector, right? So, but look at the residential, including single family home, condo, and single family home and condo, right? So the price, nationwide, the price gone up by 6%. At the same time, the cost, the mortgage rates, on a 30 years still at a very historically low, right? We're looking at about, 3.1%, in that range, right? Uh, so that which gonna make residential market moving, the market is really moving, right? So I look at the home, I look at the restaurant booking, right? The restaurant booking, and so they're challenging with that, challenging with the dining in the restaurant, and so that sector is also very challenging, in terms of um, what I were to what I was concerned with the most is the coronavirus in the U.S., right? So the number is really disturbing, and the number is really going up. So that's gonna create the challenging in the marketplace. When yeah, we starting out a program with this kind of discussing about the time management, create the schedule that work for you, and we're discussing about customer acquisition, for you to proactive way to go and find customer, right? So we discussed on day three about past client and sphere of influence, people that you work with that work with you, right? And how to get about 10% referral from those sources. Day number four, we talk about pre-qualify your client, right? Quantity versus quality. Qualify your client. Day number, we talk about pre-qualifying, right? And then we talk about lead follow-up on our program, right? Very important because 78% of the customer we coming from lead follow-up. Day number seven, we're talking about presentation, right? Presentation very important to create a professional presentation. Day number eight, we talk about pricing, whether you get paid or you pay, right? It's just about how you pricing it. Day number nine, we talk about objection. How do you handle objection, right? So today I wanted to talk to you about the important subject, which is closing skill, right? And I wrote down here is that I've been through so many training, right, in the past, and from Joe Stum, to been through the MFO My Ferry training, or Prime Affinity, or yeah. So the thing about everybody talk about the techniques, and strategy of how to do the closing, but for me, it's my own experience, over 22 years, uh, working with client and training and coaching over 146 and entrepreneur in real estate, and been through 3,000 customers we serve. It's just about for me what I think about the closing the so what the definition of closing. Closing is really it's a natural ending to a good presentation, right? So so if you were to make a good presentation to a client, right, and you prepare some pricing presentation, you press pre, you preparing the material to do your presentation, anything from anything from the contract to the marketing plan, to the way that you presented it, right? If I always think that knowledge is equal confidence, and ignorance is equal fear. When you don't know what to do, you don't have any confidence to do that. And when you don't demonstrate the confidence to your client, the closing become very challenging for you, right? So it's not so much about the closing, that technique that you have to do. It's about preparing yourself for your meeting, right? To So closing is a good ending. It's a natural ending, actually, of a good presentation, right? So I were to a friend of mine, he's the instructor to fly airplane, right? So, and he's also, his background is working for Boeing as an engineer to build airplane, like right here locally. But then he took me to he took me to the airplane and asked me to ask me if I want to fly an airplane, because I did. I mean, I want to fly. Of course, I want to fly, but I didn't know how to operate an airplane. So get what? I'm really scared, right? So of course I'm not gonna fly an airplane. But his background is from Boeing engineer and a flight instructor, right? So he's very comfortable, confident about it. Versus me, I didn't know anything about. So get what? When it comes to that, the ability to knowing about, the knowledge about doing something, so that it is so knowledgeable about what you do, right? So I wrote down here is that the if you're sitting in front of a motivated, qualified client, the closing is simple, right? What it's so great, to to sell something to somebody that needed your product and service, right? And the closing is very simple, and if you haven't qualified the client and you really don't know their motivation, the closing become very difficult, right? So so get in front of the client, a seller, right? And about their motivation to purchase, to do the deal, and the closing is really simple, right? But if you get in front of non-qualified client and non-motivated client, the closing is become really hard, right? So um, so I wrote down here is that the great meeting, the great appointment is when the client need the service that you have to offer, and if they can see that the service will help them to achieve their goal, this make the closing quite simple, right? So when I work at a when I work at an agent, coming from Vietnam, when spending my years in China, and then in Philippines, coming to the U.S. and back in 1993 and started real estate back in 1998. There was one month that I be able to help like 17 customer in one month, right? But of course, when you started it out, 90% of my business is a buyer control versus listed, right? So I work with a lot of buyers, right? So for me, the way that to you don't want the way that to work with a lot of clients is about finding the quality client, motivated client to purchase, and make sure that they are qualified for financing, right? So if I were to know about that, then the closing is probably going to be easier for me to close, right? So the so I wrote down about the being a good closer. It's about attitudes, right, and the confidence, that belief. It's a belief. Then it is about using the word to intimidate the prospect, right? Being a good closer is about attitude, right? It's about a confidence, right? So what would be your attitudes about your customer? you know, do you think that do you look at them, do you think that they're gonna work with you, that gonna appreciate your service, you know, right? And how about your confidence, you know, how much confident that you believe in you, right? So, you know, if you don't believe in you, you know, in if you don't believe in you, that's, you know, let's say you run for the office, for example, in the politics season. If you don't believe in you, you know, when you run it for politics, the vote become, you know, unanimous, right? So so I, you know, there's some so I wrote down here is that, you know, the client, they expect, you know, they expected you to close, you know, and get the client, get the buyer into their home, you know, and therefore they would expecting for you the to close them the same way, right? So um, so the so the buyer, the client, they contact you for a reason, right? So your job is to make a presentation, right? To follow to follow up and to get the contract signed. You know, this this decision is always made on a business decision, and make sure that you make a good business presentation, right? So make a business presentation. So people are giving you the, you know, people are talking to you about the purchase, you know, that needing your service for a reason, right? And your job is have to make a, you know, really good professional presentation and follow up on it, right? So that's, you know, that's some of the idea, you know, some of the strategy that I wanted to share with you today, this Tuesday, right? So I hope that you can, you know, learn that, apply that into your business, and as always, go and have a great one.